Hey, Katie, I think maybe we need to just put your mic on. Might have been muted there. There we
Technical
go.
off the line problems. Well, let's start that again. Hello and welcome everybody to the Tour of Boudica for the Warrior Games, presented here on Zwift Community Live. I am Kate Bates, joined by Anna Russel. I've had a bit of a technical glitch to start. Let's hope that doesn't happen to any of our riders out on course. Anna, we started yesterday with stage one, the time trial, some pretty impressive results.
Oh, I did a little bit of analysis yesterday of those results,
With your
looking at.
whiteboard.
I'm actually doing a virtual whiteboard now. I have upped my
Okay.
game, and it was just amazing to see. I mean, Jackie Godby averaging around 330 watts for that individual time trial blew the field apart, 13 seconds ahead now over Rachel Lieberman. But Sarah Saploros-Colza not sitting in the top spot, so that is the 2024 team, followed by Cryogen in that group. So there are lots of battles going on. There are a lot of tired legs too, so this is going to be a brutal race today.
Well, let's take a look at what today has in store before we go over the results.
Stage 2, we have the sprint race, which will be 5 laps of seaside sprint. The total distance is 34.5 kilometres, or 21.4 miles. This has a 3 kilometre or 1.9 mile lead-in. In the sprint race, the Warriors will have to work with their teams to get the sprint bonus seconds. This time, it isn't first through, but fastest for the 4 sprints. There is a sprint at the end of lap 1, lap 2, lap 3, and lap 4. Please note that the sprint at the end of the lead-in will not count. The fastest 5 sprinters for each lap will receive time deductions. First fastest through 5th fastest will receive time deductions of 5 seconds through to 1 second. For example, the first fastest sprinter will receive a time deduction of 5 seconds. The 5th fastest sprinter will receive a time deduction of 1 second. Bonus seconds gained on these intermediate sprints will count towards both the individual and the team's general classification. We will also be awarding bonus second time deductions for the first 10 riders through the final banner. The first 10 riders through the finish banner will receive time deductions of 10 seconds to 1. For example, the first rider through the finish banner will receive a time deduction of 10 seconds. With the 10th rider through the finish banner will receive a time deduction of 1 second. Bonus seconds gained at the finish will only count towards individual general classification. Individual general classification after stage 2. This will be the riders' finishing time of stage 1 plus their finishing time of stage 2. We will then deduct all bonus seconds won in stage 2, which will include the intermediates during the race and the finishing sprint, to determine their overall general classification time. Team general classification after stage 2. This will be the cumulative time of the top 2 best placed riders in stage 2, plus the team's general classification time from stage 1. We will then deduct the bonus seconds from the 2 riders who amassed the most bonus seconds in the 4 intermediate sprints. Bonus seconds won at the finish are not included here. This means that drop riders can still contribute to the team general classification.
Okay, so that makes it sound like it's quite complicated. In reality, it's not exactly. But so today they've got 34.5k, as that video explained. We've got some interesting sprints out on course. But first, let's take a bit of a look at what happened yesterday in terms of the riders that were successful and where the team's classifications are at. So we have a bit of an idea who's going for what. So let's take a look at this overall, the GC jersey. Who doesn't want to wear a leader's jersey at some point in their career? Jackie Godby, she took the win for Saris, the Pro's Closet, in the A+ category. And as you mentioned, a very incredible win there. Sunny from Betty Squad. Now, she is incumbent there, but she has actually performed so well that she has been boosted up to the A+, so very big day for her. Kerry Paul is now wearing that leader's jersey in the A Cat. Hilly Vent Closter for Revo in the B Cat. Katie Pottier for Sorella in the Seacat, and Nani Lukusulu from Betty Squad in the D. So already we're getting a bit of a picture of which teams may have an interest, but let's take a look at the team categories across the races. Anna, I'll throw this one to you for the A+.
Yeah, so 2024 in the number one slot, some great performances yesterday. Cryogen in second, 1 second ahead of Saris the Pro's Closet in third. I Race Like a Girl in fourth, and Insured in fifth position.
All right, if we head to the A category, we've got SDBC leading there, Cryogen in second, I Race Like a Girl, I love that team name, in third, Draft in fourth, and BRT sitting in fifth.
And the B category is Revo in first, AO in second, Socks for Watts, I like that team name too, is third, Rave in fourth, and TBR in fifth.
Okay, let's take a look at the CCAT. We've got 5 categories here, of course, and so unreal to see so many entrants across all of them. Leading in the Cs is Sorella at the top there. AO is in second. Cryogen in third. The Swedish Zwifters, they're in fourth. And Revo sitting in fifth.
And rounding out with category D, we have Swedish Zwifters in first, AO in second, Vixen in third, BRT in fourth, and Betty Squad in fifth.
All right, so all around we've got a fairly consistent picture of who is doing well. We did have some tight races in the time trials, but as you go down past about fourth and fifth, we've also got some big time gaps opening up. So we do have 5 chances today to earn those sprint bonus points. Only 4 of those will count toward the Team GC. So, Anna, isn't it interesting? Jackie Godby, she is leading after that time trial, but it's actually 2024 that's on top of the team classification at the moment.
And it just does show, you need 2 riders who are just almost equally as good. So I think with Jackie Godby, she had a huge outstanding performance, and then the next rider, Christy Tracy, I think she might have been 10th or 11th. So it just sort of showed potentially it's better to have maybe riders who are 4th and 5th as opposed to 1st and then a bit further down the track.
Well, and a very interesting takeaway from that opening video is riders who are dropped can still contribute to their overall Team GC because these sprints actually aren't on the first 5 that cross that sprint line. It is on segment time. So isn't that an interesting one? I mean, in theory, you could do all sorts of things with the strategy on that one, Anna.
I think it's just amazing to do it on that, and I see that in the upcoming Zwift Racing League, they're also doing some segment times as opposed to fastest across the line. What that means is, as a teammate, if you're a really great sprinter but you're terrible at time trialing, you actually have a role to play today, and it's quite motivating. So you can go out there and, I don't know, maybe just absolutely sprint each segment and then just roll back and go like a zone 2 ride for the rest of it. So it's going to be some pretty exciting racing, and we are actually seeing that we do have riders on the course, so we might cut over and have a look. They've just come out of the pens, and this is only 34k, so it's going to be pretty quick today, and we don't want to miss any of the action because the first sprint rolls around pretty quickly. I haven't actually ridden the Seaside Sprint course myself. It's an event-only course, relatively new, and it's going to be good to see. It's definitely one for those sprinters.
Yeah, I haven't ridden it either, but I've commentated on races in there, and it is a bit of a fast and furious course every single time. This intermediate sprint thing, I think that has the potential to kind of throw a few bombs out there today. So, I mean, Anna, you obviously have a bit of an inside run with Saris, the Pro's Closet, because you ride for them as well. So without giving anything away, unless you want to, of course, I did say I'd try and convince you to tell us the team strategy. When you're not on the top of the team classification, but you do have a rider incumbent in that leader's jersey, I mean, do you see them being responsible for the pace here at all and defending that jersey, or do you think it's Team 2024 who really should kind of step up and kind of be incumbent in that role?
Well, I think I can give away a little bit now because they're out on course, and if any of these riders are actually going to be, listening to this as they're riding along, kudos to them. I can't listen and take in any information when my heart rate is sitting at, as we can see here, 163 for one of the I race like the girl team members. But yeah, it's today I would definitely be sacrificing some teammates to take out those sprint points. And to be honest, I would say if you're that leading group 2024, you don't really need to do much, to be honest, because you're in the lead. You just need to make sure you're in the top 10 at the finish. I am interested here just to see that there's a rider gone right off the front. Just trying to see who that might be. It looks like, well, that's Christy Tracy from Sarah. So if anyone watched the recent UCI World Champs, she loves these attacks off the front, and she is obviously going full noise already in this race.
So they're not too far in. It is only 34 kilometres today, which will go very, very quickly. But because the pace is so high, it's not really the kind of course that you want a solo break. I know, Anna, I've had a few attacks in races, and I've fully intended people to come with me. And I've gotten out there, turned around, been on my own and thought, oh, dear. Okay, all right, what do I do now? This wasn't really the plan. Yeah, and I mean, in that moment, you have to decide whether you want to commit to it or whether you kind of sit up and think, okay, look, that's not really the best idea after all. So I think any riders who are going to make attacks, they either need to time it very well around staying away and what's out on course, or trying to get some bunch mates to go with them.
Yeah, just looking at this front group, I've seen already they've whittled that down. We saw a huge group at the start, and that attack, and we're just seeing here another attack from a Sarasa Pro's closet rider off the front. So this is the strategy. They are doing 1-2 punches here. I think what they're trying to emulate is a strategy I saw last season in the Zwift Racing League with Heino, who started doing 1-2 punches right off the gate, and that actually ended up breaking up the field. And we see here they're just coming through under this banner, which isn't one of the ones that counts, as still part of the lead, and I do believe. So it will be the coming round over the next lap that the points will count. But yeah, this is there are some concerted strategies here, and I'm interested to see how this is going to play out. We have another rider, it looks like, breaking off the front. It's a big, and this is an insured rider. So Viv Nguyen, who I have raced against before, is an unbelievable Zwifter. Have raced on a lot of climbs, actually, and she tends to be extremely good on the climbs, but she's here racing off the front in a sprint stage. So this is just, I mean, these tactics, what do you make of these, Katie? I'm not sure what these teams are doing.
Well, Vi Nguyen, she was third yesterday in the time trial. She does ride for Insure, presented by Pedal Power. We do know she's one of the strongest riders. She's 17 seconds adrift after the time trial from Jackie Godby. But what we know from Jackie Godby is that yesterday would have suited her the most. I don't think that's out of line to say. She will be going in. Everybody knows that she's a very strong time trialist, and you don't let her go. But it is a bit of an opportunity for the other riders. I think what Insure need to do, they're doing quite well on that overall Team GC as well, is animate it and keep the pace high, because you can get in a lot of trouble when the bunch is just rolling along. Sometimes that means you need kind of some sacrificial lambs. And not that Nguyen is a sacrificial lamb per se, but I think that it certainly would be one of her jobs today to keep that bunch going quickly and realistically as small as possible, because we do have quite a big field out there.
Yeah, and I did just want to, we're just watching Jackie Godby at the moment. I did just want to highlight what that leaders kit does look like, because we do have, we will cut over to the C's as well, and I do just want to see what that looks like is a sort of black and white. She's gone back into the pack there, hiding away, as she should be today. She shouldn't be taking any leads. Black and white, almost like a B, black and yellow, sorry, with... there we go. You can just see it poking through there. A little close up there. This is what the leader's jersey looks like today. So you've got the black and yellow. She's rocking that Aero helmet. And one of the fastest bike setups on Zwift, that S-Works Venge with the, I'm not sure what wheels she's actually got going there. Might be probably the 458. Zip 458s would be good for this course. So yeah, she's looking pretty good there. Just going into the field as they hit a little bit of a climb now. You can see all those feathers being dropped. And this is a very small field now. Looking at Jackie Godbee's heart rate there and those watts, 550 watts and a heart rate of 181. I'm not sure I want to be out there racing. That looks absolutely brutal.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you can afford to hit those kind of high heart rates for short periods of time. You can't really afford to do that for too long because you will tip over that line. There's only a certain length of time you can stay in that kind of zone before your body kind of gives up. Antonina Reznikov from 2024, she's definitely a rider to watch today. She had a pretty solid performance in the time trial yesterday, but she is a lighter rider who performs exceptionally well when it comes to power and weight. So anytime the road kicks up at all, and we're on about 2-3% at the moment, she will be doing it a little bit easier than a lot of the other riders. She's a bit of a pocket rocket. So she's definitely one to watch. I think so far, I think it would be fair to say, Anna, that generally in Zwift we see really aggressive racing, and not only because it's usually within the hour for overall race time, but just the style of racing seems to really suit teams having a go from that start line.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this has been a fast and furious start. I'm very impressed with how all these women are racing. I do want to just cut over to have a look at what's happening in the C category, who we're also following. They started just ahead actually of this A plus category. And let's have a look if we can see they're sort of approaching, looks like a similar spot on the volcano as well.
Yeah, so they had their first sprint just shy of the 10-kilometre mark. Of course, they've got 5 of them today, the first 4, fourth and fifth. The fifth one, pardon me, counts for the overall, but those first 4 also for the intermediate. So they had that at about, the 9-kilometre mark, the 16-kilometre mark. So that'll actually play quite a big role, Anna, if they're sprinting for those. If we're just looking at C for a second, Sorella is the team on top there to watch, with AO and Cryogen 23 and 25 seconds adrift of that. So the top 3 are all within that 30-second mark. Today you can earn quite a lot of time bonuses with 5 seconds for the winner in those intermediate sprints down to 1 second. So I think that between those 3 teams, they will definitely be the ones, I think, that other riders will look to see how they can perform overall. But so far, not too many fireworks. I mean, it's pretty early on in the race, but they are moving fast. So there's a bit of a difference between rolling along, doing nothing, versus actually moving quite quickly, even if absent of some attacks. And
they are pushing hard. I mean, our heart rate of 177 is pretty high. That's threshold pretty much. So they may not have the same sort of speed as that A plus category, but that's not to say they're not working mighty hard in this race. And we are just looking...
that's exactly right. So
yeah, I did just want to note too, I think we are coming around to one of these first sprint parts of this race for that A plus category. You can see on the left of the screen. And I just wanted to note as well, we can only watch 2 categories at a time with the production today. So we'll watch the A plus and we'll watch the C's. Hopefully when they finish, we can go back and have a look at the A's and also some of the B's and D's potentially. But we'll mix it up tomorrow for the Queen Stage 2. So we see sort of the range of all the sort of 700 plus women racing this weekend.
Isn't that incredible to have that many women out on course? It's unreal, and so good that we can see all of the racing, all of the action. So Reznikov we're taking a look at the moment in the A plus from 2024, And we spoke about her briefly before. 2024 have put together quite an incredible team, not only in real life, but also for the esports racing world. It's headed by Nicola Cranmer, who has done an incredible job over the last 2 decades, really forming and building a lot of the development talent through the US cycling scene. And it's incredible to see that is continuing even virtually. I think that they've really been an early mover in that space, Anna, and I think Reznikov is one of those pretty exciting discoveries that's come through that.
Yeah, I mean, having raced her a few times, like I said, she's impressive. And I think someone maybe can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe she does come from a triathlon background and sort of picked up the Zwifting over the last year to replace some of the races that obviously didn't happen. So there's a few of the triathletes out there. If you look at the names on the right-hand side of the screen, that's actually can indicate if there's professional athletes in the field. So we can see right there is a sort of green jersey. I believe that's Meredith Kessler from I Race Like a Girl, and that indicates that she is a professional triathlete. As we move forward, and it looks like we are going into, I believe, they've just come through one of those sprint passes, so we'll keep watching them as these guys head towards that finish line area.
So for each intermediate sprint, we've got 5, 3, 2, and 1 bonus seconds on the line. Again, it's not the first 5 over the line, but actually the fastest through the segment. So in theory, Anna, a rider who may have been dropped could actually still get those 5 bonus seconds to contribute to the team by sprinting through that segment. It's slightly unlikely, but that is possible.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I'm intrigued about, and I'm not sure, this is kind of new to Zwift racing, is to really be having segment times as well as first across the line. Usually it's just first across the line. And I'd say with segment times, it becomes a lot more strategic. And I'd like to know, and I don't know if any riders who are watching, sorry, I just see there has been a break in the pack over that dirt segment, a definite split in this A+ category pack, and it looks like some riders just have not made that split. So let's see if they catch up over this volcano part. But I think, is it faster to be in the fastest moving pack, so this lead pack, and sprint through the pack and use the draft benefit? Or is it better to just ride the race as a pure sprinter? Like I said, ride those sprints at your, anaerobic capacity, just going all out, and then do the rest of the stage in a zone 2 easy ride. Which one, and if anyone's watching and can, what do you think is going to be the fast option? Because they're 2 entirely different strategies.
Yeah, I do think that being in the pack, you get more recovery, you get better draft effect. In effect, you start your sprint from a higher speed. And it depends what kind of rider you are. I think what's also interesting, Anna, is to consider what you gauge your effort on. When you're sprinting for a segment, do you gauge your effort based on the riders around you, and are you racing to beat them, or are you able, or is the rider able to just line up and go for 20 seconds or whatever that segment may be? So I think that's slightly different mentalities as well. We've all heard when riders have been described as, oh, she's a real racer, put a number on her. And that tends to be the riders who it's very much about who's around them and what's going on. But in saying that, I think anybody who can build a pain cave and sit in it to become a successful e-racer, they've got to definitely have that individual motivation as well. So, I think there might be some stiff competition in this segment, even if the riders start from further back in the field when they're coming into that intermediate sprint. If they still chase that segment, they will still be able to get a result. So we'll have to unpack that tomorrow and see where the results aligned with what we saw crossing the line. But we will get a bit of an indicator based on the first 5 across that line, at least as a starting point.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just interested to see that this pack has split up again. And Jackie Godby riding on the front, you can see in that leader's jersey. Just wonder about that strategy. I'd be saying, totally save your legs, but maybe she, I'm not sure. I don't know. She's 13 seconds ahead. There's probably no reason other than protection and making sure she doesn't get dropped in the tricky parts. But I'd be saying just hide in the pack and don't do any work. Looks like she does have a few teammates in there. I've got the aerial shot to see if we can find what kind of jerseys we've got in this team. I can see, so that pink and purple sort of jersey is the Sisu I Race Like the Girl team. I can see a couple of turbo riders, some Swedish Zwifters in that sort of white, blue, and yellow. Looks like there's a few of them. I don't see many Cryogen, maybe just one Cryogen rider, which isn't great for their team classification because it does look like Sarah's Pro's Closet has about 4 riders and they're only 1 second behind. So that looks like that might shake up the Team GC a bit already. And the 2024 team, so they're in that sort of blue and green kit with a rider leading off the front now. They may not actually have many riders at all. It looks like I'm just counting 2, which is not ideal at all.
Well, 2024 have the overall team classification at the moment. We know Reznikov's in there somewhere. She was poking her head out when it went up a little bit of a pinch before. Tomorrow is probably the day that I would say she would go in as one of the hot favourites. But I think you're right. They don't necessarily have the numbers here. Interesting comment about Jackie Godby and what she might be doing sitting on the front. Surprisingly, she's actually quite dynamic. It would be, and I'll explain that further to make sure nobody thinks I'm just throwing any shade on her. Normally, a time trialist, you would say that's their thing because specialist triathletes and time trialers tend to be exceptionally good at that, but slightly more of a diesel engine. And so they can pull long turns at the front and they can do a lot of damage in solo breakaways, but the intermediate sprints possibly not as suitable to them. Jackie Godby, on the other hand, is quite dynamic. She's got some quite high peak powers and 5 and 10 second efforts. So I actually think that Jackie Godby might be positioning herself, trying to stay out of trouble to make sure that when that segment comes along, that next segment, that she's just in a good position to get a good result. And for anybody who loves data, well, you're in the right place. But you can head over to Zwift Power and you can really check out the individual riders and what their strengths are. Physiologically, you can get a very good picture of the style of rider they are based on that. So we've got about 35 riders in this front group, Anna. So that's about half of the bunch that started. That is because the pace has been pretty high so far. I mean, it's been over sort of 45 kilometres an hour for the most part.
They're hitting almost the halfway point. I mean, how fast has this gone? This has been unreal.
Yeah.
So
they've been through one intermediate sprint and they're not too far off the next one.
And I do see, so I don't, if you have that open, Kate, it'd be good to know as well that that group behind them looks like they're about 40 seconds back, and I'm seeing popping up names like Yvonne Timewell, riding for Revo, who is very good, some Socks for Watts riders, some Vikings. So there's been a concerted attack effort here by this leading group to just blow things apart and just keep it small heading into these sprints, which is a smart tactic because it's risky with a huge group and that concertina effect. If you come through a sprint and you're anywhere near that back third, you can just so easily get blown off. Whereas if you have a smaller group, 20 riders say, it's not such a high chance. As we see the sprint coming up now, oh, this is lots of aero power-ups being dropped, and that looks like a Swedish Zwifter who just came through on the front there. That might have been Melon Kagstrom who came through the front. That was a very, very impressive sprint time there.
Yeah, what was very interesting there is how much the bunch strung out as they came into that sprint. And also we were talking about 2024. Reznikov we've mentioned a lot, but Rachel Lieberman is very impressive within that squad as well, and she was right up there. I mean, based on those sprint details on the left, they're a bit of an indicator. Let's not say that is 100% the results we'll see at the end, but Rachel Lieberman also up there. So I think Team 2024 continue to represent. We've got the C category on the right here, Anna. They also look to be clipping along pretty well.
Yeah, so I just wanted to follow them as they head towards their sprint. They're at 15 kilometres in, so just a little bit behind those A-plus riders. So they've just coming over this little hilly section. If you want to know where the sprint is, check out that map in the top right-hand corner. That shows the green little blob at the bottom, and that shows them approaching the sprint. So we'll see if we can get a good view of these riders going for it. Looks like a cryogen rider is pushing off the front. If you want the fastest segment, though, I think come through the pack at about this time using that drafting power up, as we see a 3R racer using, because this is a strung out group already, and you can see they've just started the sprint. You can always tell because they drop all their power ups. And there we go. That's a feather power up as well, but drafting there. It looks like that fastest one, she's just come through. I think there was that 3R racer. Absolutely smoked that Sischler there from race 3R with a cryogen rider looking like just behind Andrew there. So interesting. It was you can just it's just blowing apart the field as well, and this is risky for those ones behind that you can see are getting some gaps forming as they push some power ups to catch back on.
Well, I'm going to give some strategic high fives to some of the riders here. What I just saw, Anna, in that view was a number of riders, and I think they were the AHCR L riders, the hump day riders, bunching together, sprinting from further back in the field, not quite getting to the front by that sprint line, but using the draft for that entire segment to accelerate through the bunch. So they used not only their power-ups, their drafts, but I noticed them kind of jumping between the riders to make sure that at no point did they hit the wind. That's a really, really smart way to get fastest segment time versus crossing the line first, because the moment you're out in front and crossing the line first, you don't have any draft effect because you don't have anyone in front of you. So there you go. That is that view that we had, that overhead view, showed that perfectly. So big kudos to the team for doing that, because I think there's so many different strategies you can employ out there, but that seems to me like a fairly solid one. They do 5 laps, so they do see that sprint every lap, and it gives them a bit of a chance to kind of check it out and compare lap to lap what may and may not work. And of course, Anna, they are communicating in the background, aren't they? Hopefully not on mute with a technical problem like me. But what do they? I mean, Discord is a way they do it. To video chat and to text with a team leader kind of guiding their way. Is that right?
Yeah, that'd be right. I just pulled up the A-plus category here, as well, as we did see Christy Tracy pulling another attack off the front during the volcano. So there must be portions of the race where she's been told to attack. She's just been swallowed up by the pack again, but you saw a concerted attack there from Christy Tracy through the volcano, then with Jackie Godby in the leader's jersey on her heels pretty fast. And I did see up that little bit of a climb, Antonia Reznikov hitting an 8.1 watts per kg. So these guys, you can see here, 175 beats per minute. This is not eased up there, rounding into about 19k. So they've still got, a decent sort of 15-ish k to go. And it has been, like we thought, ferociously fast.
Yeah, blistering quick, isn't it? I love riders like Reznikov, where they are literally the embodiment of a pocket rocket. Their watts per kg are just so super impressive. Through the middle of a race too. We're not talking about that final sprint, but she really has a lot of acceleration and very punchy rider. So when I say punchy rider, Anna, I mean the riders that can accelerate quite quickly in very small kind of micro efforts. So it might only be 2 or 3 seconds, but the 2 or 3 seconds can move them to the front of the bunch without too much effort. It can do a little bit of damage to the riders on any small climbs because it really increases the pace and strings it out. So she's actually quite a weapon and can do a lot of damage in the bunch, and I'm sure we'll see a lot more of that tomorrow in the Queen's stage.
Well, what I am seeing is on this course, which I'm becoming more familiar with now, is that there's one little climb as they're going into the volcano, and that seems to be where a lot of these bunch splits are happening. We saw that just get strung out in the C category, and then also in the A+, that's where we saw Antonia put in a bit of a dig and managed to sort of break the field up a little bit. But I think this bunch that we're watching at the moment, they're all such strong riders. I mean, you can see pro riders, you can see riders who have won Zwift academies in both triathlon and cycling. I see Leah Thorvaldsen there from Turbo, who I think won the Zwift Cycling Academy maybe 3 years ago, and she's a huge supporter of women's cycling on Zwift, so it's awesome to see her in the front bunch. She really helps to spearhead that Zwift Cycling Academy each year, runs a Facebook group, always really motivating and super supportive, so great to see her up here and in the front bunch. But I don't think this bunch is going to be dropping anyone because they are so individually strong, all of them. But what it comes down to now is how can people hold on and get the most power at the end of this race for that big sprint, which has, you know, the biggest time bonuses available, goes 10 deep at the end.
It's interesting to consider that they go in with a number of options and different tactics, and as they do or don't play out, they have to pivot. That's where I think a team like 2024 have a bit of an advantage, because Nicola Cranmer is so experienced on the road, on the track. She's developed riders across the board, that she's a very, very good, let's call it extra rider to have. She's not on the bike, but she's certainly able to say, all right, ladies, not quite what we expected. Let's pivot. Let's do this. Let's try that. And she's tried everything. So I think we have a bit of a mix here, I would say, Anna, between some really old, experienced hands in the sport. Everybody's relatively new to e-racing, let's be honest. It hasn't been around that long. But some really old hands in the tactical side of the sport versus just some lungs on a bike. And Jackie Godby is the perfect example of that. She's just so strong. And every race she will get better and smarter and figure this out a bit more. All of those Cyrus Pro's Closet girls are developing at a rapid rate of knots. So I think when you look at it like that, it's interesting to watch how they're all riding and consider what their tactics may be.
Yeah, I am actually seeing in that top map, as we are going through the sprint, that a couple of riders have gone off the front. I see that there's some D category riders just ahead, so they've sort of caught up to some D cat riders. They just went through that sprint there. I saw an attack, and it looked to me like Nguyen from Insured, I believe it was, who maybe went off the front there. She's got that cheese cutter hat, so it's sometimes easy to see who she is.
Cheese cutter hat.
Yeah.
I've never heard it described like that.
Oh, really?
It was like those sort of French berets.
Oh, I'm sure it's a cheese cutter hat. So yeah, we do have just a few sort of D cat riders they are going through, but this is Jackie Godby off the front. So she's not messing around, and I would say her general there is Christy Tracy, who no matter where Jackie is, Christy is, and I think those two are sort of working together. But that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Saris the Pro's Closet riders in this main group, and I'm just trying to see. You've got your 2024 rider and another one just sort of mid-pack, but I think that might be it.
Well, we've got Reznikov, and we've also got Kolchinsky in there as well. Lieberman, we saw her. She's also in there. She's also in that bunch. So they've got 3 in there that I can see at the moment. But they are slightly outnumbered by the pros by Cyrus the Pro's Closet.
And it looks like I Race Like a Girl also has a very good showing in that main bunch. I can see a few of those nice pink and purple kits. So the I Race Like a Girl team, a lot of them are professional or ex-professional triathletes. So they performed very well yesterday, and I'm impressed with how they're going today. They've learnt their bunch riding craft in Zwift, and it seems like they're performing very well. I can sort of see maybe about four of the, or if not five of the I Race Like a Girl riders. So great job them as well. And I do want to just keep an eye on what's happening in that C category as they approach their sprint as well. So we'll just see if we can catch their sprint intermediary points as they approach that bridge.
So it has been similar in both categories today, the way they've approached the sprint and really strung it out coming into those sprint points. We know when they cross that bridge, that is where they already need to be moving very quickly. Anna, let's talk about power-ups very quickly for a second. What's the ideal power-up to go into this sprint with?
I would definitely be saying aero power up if you're near the front, as we can see a rider just dropping that now, getting out of the saddle and really pushing. If you're going to go driving off the front, aero. If you're going to come through the pack and go faster segment time, then I'd be going the drafting power up, that truck, because that's going to push you through the pack really quickly. So again, I might do like a little bit of a deep dive analysis and see which strategy is best for those segment times, but something tells me it's probably the truck pushing through the pack is going to give you the best segment time.
I really hope you have your whiteboard out for that. So that was we've all got a bit of a visual, Anna, of you with your glasses on with a whiteboard marker in hand, standing in front of that whiteboard, putting out your strategies. So the segment there starts as they hit that bridge and finishes just on the other side of it, but it is a bit of a downhill run into that. So that's why I think the feather is probably not as beneficial, because you don't want the feather taking any speed as you're coming down. But usually I would say a feather can be a really, really helpful thing in a sprint to accelerate, that moment of acceleration, if you use it at the right time.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just looking as this A+ group has gone through that volcano again, and it looked like there was a little dig off the front by Catherine Monks from Finesse Rockets, who is a great rider on Zwift. I've also raced her a few times, and she's no joke when it comes down to those sprint finishes. So this is a perfect type of a race for her, and she's also hanging with the big guns on the sort of hills as well. So maybe she's done a bit of training over Christmas and has worked on her hill climbing too.
I mean, that is a really cool thing about Zwift, I think, that you can really target those areas and you get a very good analysis, power analysis on every single ride of where you're going and how you're traveling. We talked a little bit before, we just touched on I Race Like a Girl. Anna, they've got quite a number of riders in here. We also talked about the riders who are kind of more pure physiological animals at this point and are just learning the craft of racing. What I notice is I Ride Like a Girl have actually signed up Catherine Curry to ride with them. I raced with her in the US many years ago. She was a bit ahead of me, and she was always one of those riders you hoped to be. It was kind of a big scalp if you managed to beat her on any given day, because she was domestically and internationally incredibly well respected and really one of the tough, hard women of the sport. So I'm excited that she's not only continuing her cycling journey, good on you, Catherine, but also I think it's a very, very smart move by I Race Like a Girl to get someone so experienced in racecraft as her out there. So I wouldn't be surprised if she's playing a bit of a team leader role in getting the girls together, and by the looks of it, they're doing a very good job. They do have quite a lot of riders in that front group, and Catherine Curry certainly spearheading that, and I think we can look tomorrow for her to really come into her own, because she's a very good climber.
Yeah, exactly. This is coming into, they'll probably be just sort of rounding out this lap shortly, and we'll hit these little rollers. Looks like things have calmed down slightly. You know, we're looking at a 220-ish watts here. Heart rate is still extremely high, so there's been a lot of work done, and I think these riders are getting pretty tired, and not forgetting they had to do an individual time trial yesterday. So it's it's not easy on these tired legs, and it's just going to be even worse tomorrow. As we look at A. Brady here, just taking a little turn off the front. But look at that. You've got Jackie Godby right up the front again in that black and yellow jersey. She's never far away from the front at all, and actually pulling in some, doing a bit of work too. So she's almost a whole package here. She's done that individual time trial extremely well, and then she's not afraid to take some turns on the front of this bunch during this race. I've seen her on the front 4 or 5 times already, and she's obviously just wanting to cement that leader position. Question is, do they try and even cement it a bit more? It's only 13 seconds. That's only sort of one little break that could happen tomorrow in the Queen stage. So maybe they're going to try a little attack. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Jackie Godby in particular, her numbers are incredible. Just her raw power averages and numbers are really, really impressive. Undoubtedly on a course like this, as we saw in the time trial yesterday, she's in a very good position to up the pace or even have some attacks and string it out a little bit. Again, if you get 10 seconds off the front, that 10 seconds count. So I think a lot of the riders are used to the Zwift environment where it's all about team classification and points rather than time. We need to remember this is still on time. So if Sarah the Pro's Closet can do a little bit of damage and string it out, then that can make a very big difference. Certainly Godby is, I mean, her numbers are phenomenal. Anna,
And look
honestly,
at this.
I think she's...
They're approaching the sprint, and it's Christy Tracy leading out Godby. So not only is she taking the lead in the pack, she's actually leading out the sprint and dropping a drafting power up here, which would have been better to be used in the pack, just as an FYI, because this rider coming through now will be going a lot faster. But it sort of shows to me that her strategy is not to take out these sprint bonuses. They are to stay near the front and not get dropped. But there was an amazing lead out there. They took a lead, Christy and Jackie. They did race together in the UCI World Champs for Team America. So they obviously know sort of how to race together. And they're just riding through a few of the Ds at the moment. That's why we see a big group forming. But that might have been a concerted effort. They might have been on Discord and said, let's push this really fast because we are seeing a huge string out and a couple of those A-plus category riders being dropped now.
I just want to make sure that through the other side of the sprint, everybody pays attention because that's a bit of a danger time when you have put in a bit of an effort and a sprint. That's actually the perfect time for another team to counterattack. What complicates it further is this dirt gravel section because it does require more power. It's very realistic. It requires more power to maintain your speed going through this. And this is also a bit of a danger spot. You can't see the wheels in front of you quite as clearly either. And I think having come through that sprint, the heart rates will be pretty high.
Yeah.
We're watching Brady at the moment. Look, she's settled in 162. That's pretty heavy breathing, but it's not too alarming. We saw some heart rates edging toward 180 before. So I think the riders who are there certainly need to try and take a bit of a breather through here. But they are travelling fast. So it is flat road, but they're, toward 45k an hour. There isn't really anywhere in the pack where you're not working pretty hard at this stage. It would be easy to say, oh, just sit in and it won't be too bad. But the reality is they're all putting out pretty decent powers. Lieberman there from 2024 coming to the front. We knew that she was on form based on yesterday's ride. She had a very good time trial. So I think 2024 are probably getting organised as well, especially Anna, now that they've seen Sarah the Pro's Closet and what their intentions seem to be. I think this is turning into quite a hotly contested race.
Yeah, it sure is. And I've just got the split screen going because we have on the left those A-plus riders. They're going through the volcano into that little hill climb area, which I think has been decisive in attacks. And I think if there's going to be an attack, they've only got about 4 kilometres to go. It could happen here. But then on the right, just full of action, we've got the C's approaching one of their last intermediary sprints as well. So we'll just keep the split screen open for a bit as we try and watch the C category go through their sprint. And then this A-plus category hitting these little climbs of the volcano, which have, like I said, proved to be pretty decisive.
Well, Chloe Gagan, who we're watching in the C Kat, she has been kind of sitting mid-pack and really looking after herself all day. I think, she's playing a very smart waiting game, because you can't afford to use too much energy at all. Almost quite different to what we're seeing in the A+. Kat, we've got Catherine Curry on the screen now. We were talking about her before, very experienced bike rider. It doesn't surprise me that with only a couple of kilometres left to race, that she's up the front there and making sure that her other teammates are also up there and in a good position, because it is who crosses the line first is going to be important in that finishing sprint.
And we will.
So I think the A Cats, Anna, they're kind of rolling out in an orderly fashion, but the C we're watching now, Chloe Gagan, we've got on screen there, they're coming into the sprint again, this downhill before they hit the start of that segment as they go over the bridge.
Yeah, I'll just take the bird's eye view about how these people are dropping these parrots. We see an arrow going off the front here, but a few of those feathers, like you said, getting that little kick across the line, a drafting one being dropped, but it looks like that BRT rider just absolutely smashing it off the front. I'd be surprised if she doesn't get the fastest segment time, because she came mid-pack and just blew apart the rest of that field. And again, pretty strung out, but the C category lead group has been big all day long. It's sort of I would say around 40 to 50 riders in that C group. You'd almost want to start to do some 1-2 efforts here if you're a team with a lot of riders, just so you can make the most of these little splits that are forming, because you don't want to take a group that big to the line, because the chances of getting those 10 deep bonus points at the finish is significantly decreased when you've got a group of this size.
That's it. So Zwift Power's telling us we've got 51 riders in that front bunch, which is quite a big bunch. And we can compare that to the A+, who only have 30 riders now. That's whittled down one by one. Interesting, Anna, is that they did initially have that big burst of power early on, and the bunch split, and we had about 38 riders. But each couple of kilometres, we're losing 1 or 2 riders just at a time. And it's not because it's not any attacks going off the front. It's simply that the speed is so high that some riders on a one-by-one basis are struggling to keep up. And as I say that, we're now down to 29, so we've just lost another rider to the cost of the pace there. But it is kind of in the business end of the race now.
And we've got, we're just following the A+ riders here. Catherine Curie here from Sisway Race Like a Girl. They're coming into the last sort of 2K, 1,500 metres before they finish this race off. I thought it would be around 45 minutes, so it looks like that's the case. We can just see the Nguyen rider from Insured just pushing a little turn off the front with Jackie Godby straight on her tail, so she's not letting anything get away. And yeah, not long to go. They go through this little rolling section. Wonder if I don't think from this point there's going to be a long range attack. It's just too risky, although Christy Tracy does tend to like that strategy. But yeah, I think what they're going to do is just, Jackie Godby doesn't have to do much. She just has to finish in the bunch, basically. But if you have a rider such as Rachel Lieberman, who's in second, come through and get more bonus seconds, she's just going to edge that little bit closer. So it really does come down to those Insured, the 2024 riders, managing to get Rachel Lieberman a really good position at the end of this race.
Well, Lieberman's been pretty consistent based on the split times we've seen. I have a feeling she's picked up some points along the way. She does have Kolchinsky and Reznikov as teammates who are both really shining lights in the esports world. So she doesn't have the absolute numbers on paper, but she's got 2 very, very strong riders on her side. Saris, the Pros Closet, there's 5 of them in that front bunch. They've done an excellent job. They've got Tracy, Cameron, Wagner and Godby up there, and they are all forming a little bunch together. They are in that very distinctive yellow at the top, green at the bottom, and of course Jackie Godby wearing that Queen Bee Leaders jersey. So you can kind of get an idea from their jerseys who are on the same team and get a bit of an idea if they're all riding together. So far, the Saris Pros Closet are showing that they're riding very well together as a team. So Godby is on the front there. Tracy is sitting just behind, but it is Kristen Kolchinsky from 2024 who is leading the pace there, and Reznikov just sitting off to the left. I think they're the two teams
Here we go, because this
today.
is actually the finish line approaching now, and we'll try and get good images on this. This way, I think that's Catherine Curie going off the front, so I think she is going for a huge finish here. Lucky we were following her. That is amazing as she's coming through with a couple of 2024 girls. Looks like that may have been Curie who took that out just ahead of one of the 2024 riders. So we'll have to have a check out on Zwift Power to see just how that finished up, keeping in mind that it's just the finish line positions. We have a lot of time bonuses from those intermediaries in store today as well, so make sure you head over to the Tour De Boudica website and their Facebook page to get the full results later in the day. But that was an explosive finish from that A+ category and a huge showing from 2024, and I raced like a girl at that finish.
Yeah, that was just textbook riding from Catherine Curry. She's experienced, she knows her stuff. I'm very impressed to see that she's still got the legs in her too. She's been in the cycling scene for decades and making girls of every age kind of shake in their boots when you see her on the start line. So great ride there today. It almost looked like she might have been pipped on the line there, but we'll have to see when the results come through. And, of course, as you mentioned, all of those time bonuses. So we've got Chloe Gagan on screen, Cryogen here, very big pack, as you mentioned, Anna, in this C category. We've still got 50 riders left up there, but they have been riding very, very strong races within a race. They've been going very aggressively after those intermediate sprint points. It's just that in between they've taken a little bit of the foot off the accelerator, and so they do still have quite a big blob, which in Zwift terminology is a good thing. I'm not sure it is in real life, but in Zwift terminology, it means that everybody's kind of blobbing together, which means everybody's getting a pretty good draft. So at this point, with what we're seeing, it doesn't really matter where anybody is in the bunch. Everybody's getting a pretty good sit.
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw those messages popping up before. This is what I love about women's Zwift racing. It is so friendly. So there's people just saying, oh, great racing, ladies. I loved racing with you today. And people saying ditto. So just awesome to see that, you know, they
Where's the cutthroat? Where's the we're coming for you? You know, watch your back.
I know, everyone's too nice. So, yeah, it's just, I love seeing that. It's cool. And, yeah, we'll follow these. The C riders have got about 2 kilometres to go until they hit that final sprint finish line for them as well. So expect a ton of power-ups to be dropped, because this is a massive group and you'll get a huge drafting benefit as you go through to that finish line. But yeah, these guys have had a pretty brutal day too. You're looking at from Gokegan here, 187 heart rate, very, very high to be rounding out this race. So this is going to lead to some pretty brutal racing tomorrow as well. With you look at it, a Queen of the Mountain stage. It's just going to be so hard on those climbs. These legs are going to be absolutely shot.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a part of self-preservation too, because in a stage race, it's not about, you know, being a hero and leaving everything out there on one day necessarily. It's a very different mindset and group tactic and strategy versus what we've got here, which is a tour. So tomorrow will be a very big day with a little bit of climbing. So I think some of the riders are probably just looking after themselves today. Can I also give a shout out in this group to the Vixen crew, because they've got Captain Marvel racing for them.
That's awesome.
I'd love to see Captain Marvel win just quietly. That would be quite entertaining for everybody.
That would be great. I see like some great names. There's a rider out there called Margarita who I really like. So it's just some awesome stuff, awesome names that happen on Zwift.
I've just never thought to be anything except plain old Kate Bates.
Maybe we're just too boring.
Maybe I need to up my game. Yeah.
Exactly. So
all right. Well, they're coming hot into this sprint soon, Anna. They're not far off the finish line. What we've seen from the C-Cat, a little bit different to the A's. is that they have gone very hard and aggressively through those sprints, but then they've eased up almost straight away to regroup as a pack. But this is kind of the moment where you look ahead and you can see that bridge and you know that it's not too far to go. You kind of get that feeling that you will make it and you will get there. And so we do have a bit of early movement off the front here on this downhill section.
Yeah, because it is a downhill lead into the sprint, so you can just gather so much momentum going into the sprint segment. So sort of what I've seen so far is that there are people who just, as you can see there, going off super early just to make the most of that downhill. Maybe they don't have a good power up. And then you have the people sort of dropping the power ups now and making the most of it. It's a very, very short sprint. It's just 200 meters. So yeah, that's here they are finishing the race, and it looks like a BRT rider. She was actually a rider to watch there, Van Ragt. So she's had an amazing race, finishing off very strong. One of the riders to watch, taking out the race of the C category. So those are the two categories we've been able to follow today. Is the A pluses and the C's, and it was so fast and furious. I feel like the time's gone like that.
Yeah, it has. I mean, 34.5k, well inside an hour. But not only that, they had all of those accelerations. I mean, it went so fast, Anna, that I didn't even finish my cup of tea.
Oh, so, do you know what? Neither.
Girls got no chance. Good to see the Kate Cup. But seriously, that was really impressive racing. We'll have to head over to Zwift Power, collate all of those results so that we know based on segment time who took all of those intermediate sprint points. But from the outset, from the pictures that we were seeing, I think that we've got a real horse race on between Cyrus the Pro's Closet between 2024 and as a bit of a step up today with Catherine Curry, I Ride Like a Girl.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be interested to know. You said that, she could be filling in a leadership role. I think you're right, and she's leading from the front. She took the bull by the horns and went for that final sprint, and I think that just motivated her team. I mean, I'd love to have known what they're saying on Discord, because from the way they were racing, I'd say it was very positive, and they all seem to be working together. 2024, they only had a couple of riders in that front group, but they used that to their advantage, and it looked like they both were sort of in the top 5. So there are some time bonuses that may have shook things up a little. And I think even though Sarah's had 5 riders in that front group, I didn't see so many of them there, top 5 at the finish line.
No, and I think tomorrow we're probably looking at a bit of a race between Catherine Curry and Reznikov up the climbs. And there will be some riders in there that we haven't seen yet that are very good on a power to weight basis and very good climbing that might also put their hands up. But based on what we've seen so far, I think that they're the 2 riders that are probably our best climbers that we've seen have form. Jackie Godby, Cyrus the Pro's Closet, I know you've got a bit of inside info, Anna, but they are incredibly strong riders. They put out these incredible power numbers, but they will be challenged a bit when it starts going uphill and it's a bit more about power to weight.
I think one thing Saris is missing slightly for tomorrow is a specialist climber. So like you mentioned, Antonia Reznikov, specialist climber, even a Rachel Lieberman, great at climbing. Jackie Godby, though, she may not be a specialist climber, but she has got by far the best raw watts in the group. And therefore, if she can just, and we saw that she suffered yesterday, if she can just put in a bit of suffer, those climbs aren't particularly long. It's not like they're climbing up Alpe de Zwift or Epic Climb. They're pretty short. So if she can just, ride and think of it as a 5-minute power effort, she could do okay, even though she isn't a specialist climber. But if these riders want to take her off her top spot, they're going to have to start putting in some serious effort on those climbs.
Yeah, so if we take a very quick look, I'm just looking at Zwift Power, and what it's telling me, Anna, is that it was actually Antonina Reznikov who crossed that line first ahead of Catherine Curry. This is like, It's playing out perfectly. Cassie Baldy, Stocks for Watts, crossed the line in 3rd, and Jackie Godby crossed the line in 4th. So 4 different teams.
Okay.
We've actually, if we break it down a bit further, the top 6 teams, so top 6 riders are all from 6 different teams. We also have the Finesse Rockets and Team Cryogen in there as well. So this is really getting quite interesting. I think it would be very remiss of us to say that this is already sorted out. I think we've got a long way to go there. The other thing to touch on very quickly is we did have Sunny win the A category in the time trial and then step up into the A+. So firstly, congratulations to her, because I think that's a pretty exciting thing to be pushed up a category. But that would have also come as a bit of a shock to her and maybe what she'd prepared for in the racing. So I think Betty's squad have done a great job corralling some really great riders together across the board in these different categories. But we'll have to see how she went today, because I think even emotionally, you prepare for one thing and then you're thrown another thing.
Oh, baptism by fire racing in that group today, because every time we went over there, that was insane heart rates, insane watts. I mean, you're looking at some watts here, average watts of sort of 250, 260, 300 for 45 minutes. That's like next level racing.
Yeah, that's not quite what my numbers look like these days, Anna. I've got to go with that. So we'll get all of those results up for you tomorrow at the top of the show. So make sure you tune in. It is the same time. Tomorrow we do have the Queen's stage, so we've got a few more vertical meters to climb. Anna, I think that, this is only getting more interesting by the day. And in fact, I think that we'll be a bit bummed tomorrow when it's the last stage. I think it's almost just getting going.
Yeah, no, I think tomorrow I just want the teams to bring it, like you're not going to win this race if you play it easy. So let's see some fireworks tomorrow. I want to see some big, huge sacrificial attacks and some interesting stuff going on. So I'm super pumped, but yeah, very excited for tomorrow.
So if any team directors listening, if you could go and find yourself a sacrificial lamb within your squad, Anna will be much obliged. Well, thank you as always to everybody who's tuned in. Anna, thank you very much. You're doing an awesome job bringing this to us on the production side, and of course the Warrior Games, who bring us the Tour De Boudica, a dedicated 3-day stage race for the women. So we will be back same time tomorrow, Anna, for stage 3.
Awesome. Thanks, Katie. See ya.